Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. And apologies for not standing. I have a new hip and I prefer to sit. So again, thank you for coming. We are extremely pleased to have Al Garzi, our tax assessor of 45 years from Ridgefield. And I've known him of those 45 years. I calculated I've known him 35. And his name is Al, but that really stands for always listening. Whenever I had a question, well, it's true. I go down and see him and he's always busy. He takes the time to say hello and ask what he can do for you. So in that vein, he has a lot of wonderful information. It's not just interesting, it's beneficial. And personally, I have been able to take advantage of some of the items that are afforded to us. So Al,
thank you. Thank you for having me today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the exemptions that are available for people like us over 65. And there are quite a few. But before I get into that, I'll just talk just a quick thing on how taxes started in Connecticut. In the early 1800s, we used to tax everything except for dogs and people. Furniture in the house, every single thing that could move was taxable, and that changed in the 60s, like around mid 1960s. Now we tax all real estate, all business equipment, and all motor vehicles. So it's no longer furniture in your house, money in the bank. I mean, stocks and bonds, they taxed everything, and it was an honor system. Every year you'd have to come in and say, I have 19 acres, I have a house, I think it's worth this. Today, we believe everyone, but we have to come up with the value. We have to locate what's taxable, and we have to list it, categorize it, appraise it, and send you a tax bill. So the reason why I wanted to mention that is we have two goals: to tax properties, to carry our expenses, but also we're a sort of a social service department in that we have about 20 exemptions that we offer, or that you have as a resident, you offer to the people. And I put a chart on the first row, but that'll give you an idea of all the things that are available, but there's more up here. And that lists about 20 exemptions that are available to people who either own property, own a motor vehicle, have extra land. So what I'll do is I'll get into the actual chart so you have an idea of what's available to you as a homeowner or as a renter, or if you own a motor vehicle. The biggest exemptions, or the most expensive exemptions that we have, would be the first one is an exemption to people that own a property that are over 65. The town offers you, if you live in the house, and if I'm going too fast and if there are any questions, please stop me. I'll be happy to backtrack. But the first one is what's generically known as a town credit for persons over 65 or older. You roughly as residents spend about $2 million a year on that program, and offer the program to about 2,000 families. And it's $1,048 off your tax bill every year, and you don't have to give it back. And I say that because we have some programs that you do have to give money back. We have a deferment program also. But everyone in town, if you live in town at least 183 days out of the year, and it's your main residence, and you're 65, and you come in and fill out a form, you automatically receive $1,048 off your tax bill every year. Then we have, and that's the first one on the chart. Second one is a tax deferment. And that's based on income. The first one is not based on income; it's automatic if we know about you and you fill out the forms. The second one is a deferment program. That's a local option program that local option meaning the state allows the towns to do it if they want. They have to pass an ordinance, and they fund it and finance it themselves. The state does not finance any of these programs that I'm talking about now. So you could get the $1,048 off your bill, and then if the remainder of your bill is $10,000 and your income is under 65,000, and let's say you need a new roof on the house for a one-shot deal, you could defer your taxes, take care of your roof or whatever you want to do, and not pay us until you sell the house or leave the property. And we charge a simple 3% non-compounded interest. That program is administered to about 29 families that program also is about a $2 million cost to you guys as taxpayers. They've opted to defer their entire tax bill, and they do it every year. And it keeps you in the house if you want to stay there. If not, those obviously are your options, but this gives you another option, and that's called the tax deferment program. But it's based on income. If you're single, your income can't be more than 50. If you're actually single or married, your income cannot be more than 55,000, which is kind of low for Fairfield County. The selectmen are looking to raise that. I don't know if they put it on their agenda yet, but the higher the number, the more people will qualify. But most people don't want to. The most important thing is that we do file a friendly lien on the property, and it's 3% simple interest, non-compounded, which is pretty decent, no expenses. But most people don't want to see a lien on the property. But the way things appreciate, it's most of the cases, there's still quite a bit of equity to leave to your estate, so to speak. But it's a personal choice. The credit is not paid back. That's 1,048. Then the tax deferment is paid back, simple interest, but it keeps you in your home if you want to stay there on top of the credit. Then we have what's called a now. If this is you guys have any questions, stop me at any time. Then we have it's called the state homeowners program, and that's based on income also, and it's separate from the towns. The state act, it's called a state program, but the state is no longer reimbursing us. We're actually funding that as well as a town of Ridgefield. They stopped reimbursing us for that program about 4 or 5 years ago. So now the town continues it. We take more applications, and it's an additional program if you're 65 or older. And it's a state program, we fund it. And then we have a program for people that rent. There's a renters program, and that program is based on your income and your expenses that you pay. Through a formula, we convert what would be taxes, and it's not a big amount, but it can give you anywhere up from 500 up to 1,500 depending on your income, and that's annually. Every year you have to every 2 years you have to refinance. Any questions on any of these programs? No? Okay. The state homeowners?
Yeah.
The state homeowners program is another tax credit program that used to be funded by the state of Connecticut. Now I say that because the town has two that you guys pay for, that the town funds. It's not a local option, it's mandatory. And if your income is below between 43.8 and 53.4, you can get an additional credit off your taxes of anywhere from $500 up to $2,000. But it's no longer funded by the state. The state made it mandatory that we continue it and finance it. And that's been happening a lot over the last 10 years with the state. But there are some towns that do not run the finances program, but Ridgefield's doing, I guess, the right thing in that respect. That we were told to do it, we're doing it. Then we have a state renters program. I mentioned that's based on income. It's a one-time. A person renting can receive a check once every year if they meet the criteria of if they have a low enough income and their expenses are over a certain amount. There's not a lot of people on that program, but that's a state program. The state finances that program, and every 2 years you'd have to refile. The credit program that I mentioned, the first program that you see, once you file for that, you do not have to come back. It stays on there as long as you're in the house. The deferment program, every 2 years you have to refile to prove that your income is still under a certain amount. So the state, okay, so there's another program the state's thinking of no, actually they've passed a state law. It's a local option though, meaning that anytime they say local option, it's more or less, we have the right to do it, but we have to go to a town meeting, have a public hearing in a town meeting, and if the residents want it, then the town can do it. It's you would freeze your increase in taxes. Sounds really good, right? You'll freeze the increase in taxes, and if your income is under, well, that would be under what we have to figure out what the criteria are, but you'd have to pay it back, and we would file a lien. So I don't know. That's something that's being discussed. Should the town do it or not? Now, if they decide they want to do it, before that happens, you'd have to have a public hearing in a town meeting. And then you'd have to set up the parameters, but the income could not be more than $65,000. And you're gonna be in the house 183 days out of the year. And we would file a lien again, and you'd have to pay the increase back. So if your tax bill now is, say, $15,000 and it goes up 1,000 because of the budget, that's the amount you would actually freeze, the difference. And eventually, when you sold your house, though, if you did it every year, that you would have to pay back. The two best programs, or the credit program, the first one is about, I would say, the best for most people, in that you don't have to pay that back. Yes. The freeze one. Well, that would have to be approved by the public, right? And the parameters set up by the public and the selectmen. And if it is approved, then you come in and apply. But yes, okay. No. No. Yes, the town tried to do that twice since I'm here. And if anybody that's here was at the meeting, when I was at the meeting, I don't, that didn't, that was an interesting night. That's all I can say, both times. So that program is still in existence. But no, that is, but the deferment you'd have to pay back. But the deferment is really not a bad, I mean, if my mother was alive, I'd say that's not a bad program for her, because really it's almost free money. We file a friendly lien, there are no expenses, and it keeps you if you want to be in your home, it keeps you there. And you're not going to get cheap money like that anywhere. I mean, and you don't have to do the whole thing. You can do, if your bill is 20,000 or 15,000, you could say, I want to go away this summer. I want to only do 5,000. So you defer 5,000 of your tax bill. Next year you get back on and you continue to pay, and all you owe is the 5,000 with about $150 in interest, 3% of the 5,000. And so it's flexible that way. It's an administrative nightmare for us, but it's flexible in that respect. And yes.
It almost sounds like a reverse mortgage, in a sense, the benefits of taking money out.
Well, but a reverse mortgage, though, you have to pay a big fee, and there's no fee on this.
Right.
And you pay up front too. Well, some of the benefits are like it, but I don't know. I'm not going to disagree with you, Patty, but it's like,
I'm retired. You can disagree.
can I? It's so expensive to get it, and they charge you a lot, and there's no charge except for the 3% not compounded. I think that their interest is market, whatever it is, and you actually have to pay up front, don't you? Some
Yeah.
point, I mean, you don't have to pay us anything up front.
Yours is a gift, truly.
It's not, like I said, if I knew anybody relatives, I would say that's probably not a bad way to go, because you get the credit first, and then the difference you can defer. I mean, and you don't have to do the whole thing. Did you have any more questions, or no? Okay. So now there's additional exemptions here, blind exemptions, veterans exemptions, disabled exemptions. They're all based on income. So if you look at those charts and you see you may qualify, you should take advantage of them. The veterans exemptions, they're pretty basic, and the amounts are not substantial. Like if a vet will receive, like on one of them, it says a veteran one of the exemptions would be $1,000. That's $1 million. That's about $28 that we would be giving a veteran. Now we're limited on a lot of these things, because we can't just decide as a town we want to change a number and give X amount of dollars. The state, we have to be within a range of where the state would allow us, and then we'd have to do what's called create a local option, which is where we'd have the public hearing town meeting, and then the voters would have to approve it. But there's not a lot of room that we're given to do that. The town credit we were able to do in the deferment, which is a good program. Then we also have, as owners of real estate, if you own extra land in town, if any of you are owners of extra land beyond your zone, you can classify it as open space. Now, it doesn't mean that we're taking away any of your development rights. It just means you're going to agree not to develop the property for a number of years. In return, we lower the taxes down to almost nothing on the excess land. When you sell, if you sell it within a 10-year period, there's a penalty, but we never take away your development rights. It's generically known as an open space exemption, but it does nothing. Planning and zoning has nothing to do with it. Does anybody own any extra land with their homes here? Well, if let's say you have a 2 acres in a 1 acre zone, and the extra acre beyond the house lot is costing you a couple of thousand a year, you could reduce that down to almost $10, $15 a year. And those are pretty big that's a pretty big number, depending on, if you're owning, you have a lot of excess land. And it doesn't take away your development rights. It's not a bad program. That's a local option. Volunteer fireman's exemption, that's $1,000 cash off your bill if you're a volunteer fireman. We've got quite a few, we got close to 50 volunteer firemen in town. Let's see, what else? Antique vehicles, if you have, any one of you have an antique vehicle, and it's classified as such with DMV, the most we could charge you is $500 in assessed value, which is maybe $14 in taxes. Anybody have an antique here? No? Okay. Really, it used to be 25, now it's down to 20. Yeah. So if you had a car that you liked and it was an antique and you had it classified as such with DMV, when we received the list to price, we wouldn't go more than 500 in assessment, and that's $500,000, which is like $15. Twice a year, we get all our motor vehicles from DMV, and then we have to price them, and that would be where we would deal with that. And we've got about 25,000 cars in town that we price. Manufacturing equipment, that wouldn't really qualify here. The additional veterans, if any of you are vets or know a vet and they've served active duty, time of war, let them know we're the office that they should come into and see if they qualify for anything. And especially if they're disabled, we'd be able to give them a little more. Hopefully they're not, but let's see, what else? Anybody have any questions on the sheet yes, sir.
I have a question on the first, the homeowners.
Good.
How long has that been in existence?
Since 1976.
How much was it when it started?
I have the answers for that. And Rudy was surprised, $150.
Oh,
And then the second year, I think Lou Fossey was first selectman, and they wanted to go from 150 to 300, and I guess whoever was involved thought they meant to add 300, and they went from 150 to 450. And then ever since then, it's been going up.
I would vote for that guy.
Well, they're thinking right now that I think they're going to form a committee. They're thinking of raising that as well.
Can I ask, how long has it been $1,048?
Probably, I'm going to guess and say about 8 years, maybe. Yeah, about 8 years. Well, listen, I only do what you guys tell me to do. So it's up to you to talk to, and I don't give you my,
Well, in that case, could you raise that rather? $8,000 to it? Thanks a lot.
no, thank you. I don't actually give my opinion because it's not up to me, but I would tell the selectmen what it would cost. And they're going to form a committee soon, I think, because I've been to one of the meetings with Rudy. I think they're going to get together and try to form a committee to either look at the new freeze program. I say new because there used to be a freeze program, oh God, 30 years ago, where, this is kind of crazy. If your income was less than $6,000, you would be able to freeze your entire tax bill. I know. And then the state would pay for the whole thing. It was in Fairfield County, we don't qualify on a lot of the state stuff. I mean, it should be done on a county basis. The income requirements should be done on a county basis, not on a state basis. But we can.
There's some place in the state where it's $6,000 before.
Well, that program was about 30 years old and it was discontinued, right? So it was gone for 30 years, but we still had a few people hanging on, and then they came up with this program where you have to be 70 years or older to qualify, and your income, it's going to be based on income, but you pay it back. The old program, you didn't have to pay it back, which was that was the program you want. I mean, basically, and the state would pick it up, and I guess it was costing so much money that they just said we can't do it anymore. And unfortunately, but it's there is a committee. I mean, and I would say it's been stable. It's been 1,048 for a long time.
I know that I read it last year someplace where one of the selectmen said they can't afford to raise it because we need that money. We can't afford it. It would cost us so much money, and we need that money for the schools and everything else. But, you know, everything costs, you can't, that's not the way you have to figure things out just like that.
Well, that's up to you to that's up to you to lobby. I accept the applications and like I said, I basically stay within the lines, you know, but it's due in that respect.
Good, yeah.
And I only say that because I know they are looking into that, where they're looking to raise, the requirement for the deferment and also the requirement for, the amount for the actual credit. But there's about, like I said, there's about 2,000 people on the program and it costs you guys 2 million there, 2 million for the deferment and about 80,000 for the third one on there. So those three, the first three cost you as a taxpayer about maybe 4.5 million, 4 maybe about $4 million ballpark, which is quite a bit, but it's how you want to spend your money, more or less. But, no, it's a good question. You're right. That's why they're meeting. The new freeze, that doesn't give, that's kind of, it's all paid back. So, I don't know, but that's something also they're considering, the new freeze program, where you would be your increases would be frozen and then kept track of and paid back when you leave your property. So I don't know, I'm running out, just went quick. How come?
Because everyone is looking at.
Yeah, it's 23 minutes. I guess that's not too bad. Let's see.
When should we sign up? I know what it says on the sheet, but
Well, the credit program, the time to file for the credit program is over, right? That you had until April 1st. Then the deferment program it says May 15th, but you could, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Go ahead.
No, I think it's too.
Oh, well, that's okay. Go ahead.
You're talking about this new program that might go into effect.
It's not, it won't go in effect without you and a public hearing and a town meeting and everything else. Or the changes to the other programs.
Deferrals a tax at $1,000. And you had that for like 10 years and you passed away, you have to pay that. Is there an interest with that?
Yes, it's about a 3% interest. And everything is non-compounded. It's not every year the base is bigger, so you pay more. It's just a simple so much every year straight, which is the best way to go. Easier way to go, so to speak. Oh, you're welcome. What was I going to say? Yeah, so the deferment program really is, you can come in after. We can't do the deferment until we have a mill rate, tax rate, because we don't know what to tell you how much you're going to be deferring, you know, by way of the agreement that you sign. And the deferment is an agreement that you sign. You're going to defer your taxes and we're going to charge you, 3% for 2 years, and it's a refiling every 2 years. And that program, believe it or not, only has 29 people on it. And it costs you 2 million. 2 million. The credit program has 2,000 people on it, and that costs 2 million. So that gives you an idea. People are doing their entire bill, which that's doing what it was intended to do, keep people in their house. And that's because the entire bill, it'll add up fast. It's not 1,000, it could be 15 or 20 each year.
and then that takes effect in July of that same year.
Or
Or
if you apply now, everything that we're talking about takes effect July 1st,
And then
July to June.
new tax bills are issued.
If you deferred your taxes, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm curious, will the tax dollars change at all? Staying the same for a while, for a very long while.
I think the budget was approved for about 2.2% more. So if your tax bill is, 10,000, it's 2% of that. The increase is pretty low. Very low, but there's a lot that's going on in terms of, things that the town needs, but I can't speak for the Board of Finance, but I do know that it's a 2.2%. And the filing for these, when you file, the exemption is given July to June. So if you had applied for anything where you were going to get the first credit off, the 1,048, that takes effect this July. If you're going to defer anything, we wouldn't be able to take applications until we had a mill rate to let you know how much you would be deferring. And then you would sign an agreement that you want to do it for 2 years. And then every 2 years you come back. The credit program, the first one, the 1,048, once you're on, unless you move to another house or leave. another house in Ridgefield, but that you don't have to come back for. But anything based on income, you'd have to come back every 2 years.
So I have
Yeah.
a question about the calculation of the age. It says 65.
Yes,
You were applying this year. When did
you would have had to be 65 in 23. The end of 23 to get a credit for July 24 through June 30, 25. No, it's a good question. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question, you talked about taxes. I read that the state is considering doing away with car taxes and making it part of,
Yeah.
something. How's that gonna affect property taxes for those who don't own?
Well, luckily that didn't happen, in my opinion. I'm going to give you an opinion because didn't make it out of committee. And if they did away with it, right now we collect, let's see, what's 350 times 25? That's got to be about 7 million, right? So right now it takes in $7 million. If that were taken from us, what's happened in the past is every time something is taken away, we're promised that we'd get it back. And that promise only stays around for a couple of years. So what happens, and I can say that from experience, right? So what happens is not everybody's kicking into the system then, because you'd have people that rent that aren't paying anything so everything would go on to the homes and the businesses. Right now it's spread out amongst everybody. But anytime the state does something like that, I can't talk politics, but I mean, factually, we don't keep it. It doesn't stay that way. The stream of income starts out where, okay, you're going to get it back, but then it dwindles away to the point where we don't. Like machinery and equipment used to be taxable with a lot of our companies. And the state changed the law in 2011 where we weren't going to tax it anymore, but they were going to give us the money. And then the second year came around and they just decided we're not going to reimburse you anymore. So now it's exempt and we don't get the money. So who had to make up the amount? Residents.
So car taxes are considered part of property tax, am I correct?
Yes. Well, you weren't here earlier though. So in the 18, I want to just say one thing. In the 1800s, the state we taxed everything, furniture in your house, every single thing you had, except people and cats were taxable. And that was believe it or not, money in the bank, stocks, everything. So that changed. I guess we evolved. We got to a point where they realized we're only going to tax cars, business equipment, and real estate. But go ahead.
Well, my question is, for those who rent, who have a car, they're paying property tax, they're over 65, are they
Yeah.
eligible for the rebate?
Yes, renter's rebate. Oh, well, you got to be 65. It's a state law. Yeah. Yes. If you're 60.
Cars, are you eligible for the rebate?
Yes, if you're renting, you don't have to be paying taxes as a renter to get an exemption, right?
The car tax is considered property.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be getting a credit on the car tax. You'd be getting a check back to you.
I just thought,
Well, no, that makes sense, but they basically right now, the exemptions people receive are on things they live in. Actual credits on property, but to make a renter qualify and get something, we mail you a check, the state mails you a check back if you qualify.
you still have to apply.
Every 2 years, and you need to be 65. And did you get one of these? You should get one of these. It'll tell you everything, but I'll tell you right now, the renters are, for a single is, if your income is under 43,800, married 53,400. And if you're under that income requirement and you're 65 and you rent, you just bring us what you pay in rent, what you pay in utilities, and there's a formula that calculates how much you would receive, and you could receive anywhere from as low as 200 up to maybe 1,500 to 2,000, depending on what your income is and what your expenses are. And that would be a check to you once a year, and every 2 years you'd have to refile. And that's open right now. You have until, on a renters program, you have until, let's see, October 1st.
But that's income, that's income.
That's income based. Yes.
Is that going to be considered for increase?
We
as well, or-
can't, that's a state
state.
program.
Okay.
We can only, by local option, we can only change what the state allows us to, but this is not a state program. So that, I mean, it would be nice if it changed and was on a county basis. But, thank you for the question though. So let's see, what else? Oh, yes. Okay, yes. Yeah, well, yeah, every year.
Ever considering this change? I don't understand.
Well, our mill rate's pretty low though, too. And so there's a state mill rate now for towns that get subsidized. And I think if you're over like in the thirties, you would get subsidized. So we're so far below that, I guess we're the envy of a lot of places, right? So our mill rate's in the twenties.
Oh, I'm suffering from a very high property tax.
Okay.
That's come around to that. So
Do you qualify? Well, are you on for okay, the 1,000, right? Hopefully you don't qualify for the other one, because you really got to be making a lot less to qualify, the one that, based on income. But, I mean, the best thing I could say is call me and I'll see if we're in error. That's all I could say. And I'll look at it. I mean, it doesn't hurt for me to look at it. I mean, we could have made a mistake. I don't know. I mean, we do have 10,000 accounts. I'd be happy to review it. That's true. You get through it. That's really the only benefit. If you get through it, you did good. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so it's simple. I say that it's simple. So
To you.
after 45 years, that's why I say that. Okay, so you figure out all your expenses and you figure out any money that you're getting other than other than billing people, so that's your net number. The net number that you need to run the town divided by the total of the assessments in town. We call that the grand list. That's everybody's assessment on cars, on business equipment, and on real estate. That one number, and then the cost, what you need to run the town divided by that number is your mill rate. But it's a lot goes on before you get all that information. But we have, let's say, money from building permits. We have money from a lot of different places. We know we need $1 million. We're going to get 200,000 from all the other cash coming in. That's 800,000. That number divided by the grand list of all the assessments gives us a mill rate. And that's, I mean, in a simple way, that's what it is. But it is obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into it with the Board of Finance. I'm not making, I don't want to make it sound like there's no work that goes into it, but they put in a lot of work. And when they're done, that net number that they need to collect after all our expenses and all of the extra revenue that we're receiving, that net number into the grand list, which is a total of everyone's assessment. And I think, I don't want to mislead you, but I think the total assessment in town, I can't remember, is like almost 6 billion, I think. Could be a little more, but I haven't looked at those numbers in a while. Once you sign the grand list January 31st, you want to forget about it, because every year we have to sign the list and tell the state, hey, this is what we are worth. If someone was, I used to be able to say, if Donald Trump were to buy us, this is what they pay. I don't say that anymore. I say if someone were to buy us, they'd pay about 8 or 9 billion for everything in town that's taxable. And yes,
Would you by any chance know who has the lowest mill rate and the highest in Connecticut?
the top 15, well, the lowest is Greenwich. Greenwich is the lowest, but it's harder to buy into the town, but effectively they are the lowest. Sherman's pretty low. We're probably, I would guess, around 15 or 20th lowest. But it's Greenwich without a doubt. And then Sherman probably is close. They're paying about half of 1%. We're paying about 1.8%, but that's still low for Connecticut, 1.8. It sounds a lot. It's more than the lowest, a lot more than the lowest, but the lowest is really low. I mean, that's hard to believe that Greenwich is like paying half of 1% of the value of a property.
Right, but that's a measure of their expenses.
Or how they get their revenue.
Exactly.
They might, Ridgefield's pretty good in managing buildings and things and trying to bring in extra revenue, but I guess they're doing the same.
If I heard you correctly, so basically the mill rate is a
Multiplier.
portion of all the value of property, let's call it that, cars and whatever in town,
The grand list,
compared to your budget. Is that
right,
correct? Yeah.
right. What we need,
So if that budget is lower.
yeah,
mill
could be,
rate would
yeah,
lower, right?
yeah.
So
yeah. Or if you
I don't
had,
know why that is.
or if you had ways of raising revenue, you'd be able to, which we have, which helps.
So I'm just going back to your comment about Greenwich. It may be a reflection of the fact that they raise revenue elsewhere.
Yes,
Have
both.
poorer school system.
Oh, it could, yeah, yeah, it could be, yep, yep, absolutely.
You get what you pay.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot to offer here. I mean, I would think, you know. Yes, ma'am.
Still any discussions about the sewer tax, and making that more equitable?
I'm happy to say I don't really get involved in that.
Smart
There,
answer.
no, there were some discussions, but to tell you the truth, it doesn't, I don't see any of that, because that's, you pay for a service that you're getting. So luckily, we're not involved. I mean, I have to say, we're just strictly, if you own a property and it's taxable, we have to find it, figure out what it is, appraise it, and then tax it. But good question, but I think Mr. Marconi can answer that pretty good. You know? Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Years ago, we had a number of corporations that were in town, J, whatever, we had a number of, that have left. And that has affected our mill rate, correct? Because we don't have the corporate tax coming in. What are we?
We have-
What are we doing as a town to make sure that we hold on to Boeing?
We just went through about a 15-year abatement with Boehringer to keep them here, right? So it started in 2002, was finalized in 2007, and went almost 15, it went about 15 years. So, and there was a massive project, 8 projects, and I'm not going to talk numbers, that wouldn't be fair to Boehringer, but and it lasted about 15 years. The last project came due July 22, where they had to pay full taxes for that. And they're the number 1 taxpayer. Schlumberger used to be number 2. They were nowhere near close to Boehringer. Their assessment, well, I listed a top 10 taxpayer recently, and in the not to you guys in the paper, and Boehringer's our number 1 taxpayer, and the town has passed ordinances to be, as a matter of fact, the public was involved. Public hearing, town meeting to allow a specific company to have their taxes abated. In return, they would, spend X amount of dollars, and they spent hundreds of millions over the last, say, 15 years. So anything else? I don't know. I mean, we don't have people coming to us, but I know the Economic Development Commission is trying to get involved with bring companies in, but that's up to the EDC. I mean, again, I'm just the person just collecting everything and saying, hey, this is what you have as an assessment, and this is what the properties are worth, and here's the social services part, which are the exemptions. But I know we were involved in the abatement because we had to administer it to collect the taxes, or we collected a percentage of the bill until those periods were up, and then they went to a full 100%. But it was pretty sizable in that respect. Let's see. Okay, so yes, Joe.
So, Al, thank you. It's a pleasure to listen and learn from you.
Thank you.
I want to ask a couple questions. I also want to make a public statement as chair of the Commission on Aging. I've been in your office. I'm going to send you half a dozen.
Utah, yeah.
Senior citizens who've had issues that come to me, and without fail, you have been what I would consider a tax assessor extraordinaire.
Thank you.
Very accommodating to these individuals, made them feel comfortable, and went through as patiently as you have today all sorts of options that might be available to lower their taxes. So I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude.
You guys, the town has been good to me too. The residents have. I haven't had too many. I can't say they have really had any bad issues through as long as I've been here, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
So the 2 questions that I have.
Yes.
One is to pick up on what Margaret asked about sewer taxes, because if I'm at the rec center or at Founders Hall, people will say to me, what can we do about the sewer tax? I live by myself, and I pay the same amount of sewer tax that a family of 6 pays. doesn't seem right. I don't use the same amount of, water that a family of six, uses. They're working, I'm not. And so I realize that that tax does not fall under your domain, but I don't know how to answer people when,
Well-
they ask that. It doesn't sound like it's a town tax, maybe it's a state or.
Well, it's not a tax because the tax is, what tax would, well, when I tax by statute, it's based on what the value of something is. So we have to appraise it to tax it. So that's different. I think that's based on the, I guess, the gallonage, I guess, that you use or the flushing. I don't know. But per unit, right. So I don't know what a unit would be, but I would say that,
For example, I, well,
right,
60,
right.
each one of us a tax bill, probably the property.
I don't know, yeah,
Homeowner,
right.
1 unit.
I mean,
So it's-
I know there's a sewer authority that you'd probably, I think they run that, and I guess, what's her name? Oh, I forgot her name. She works at the annex. She'll kill me now. I can't remember.
So if there are, 9,000 households, you.
There's about 9,600.
you tax.
Yes,
Our understanding is that, as Margaret says, each household is charged a fee, which is called the sewer, we call it the sewer tax, of like $870 or something like that.
800 and
Double.
I'm glad you, okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. I tax things by law on an ad valorem basis, right? Ad valorem is Latin for value. So I have to go by the value. That's in the statute. It's specifically, I have to figure out the value of your property and then take 70% of that value for an assessment. You know, how the sewers are done, I don't know. But I mean, that's something, I mean, I would be surprised if it's a tax, but I'm following what I have to do from a state statute law. Now, I don't know,
paying to the tax department.
So we should contact the sewer.
well, the tax collector does collect it, yes. So, I mean, that's really, I mean, I would think either the sewer authority or the tax collector, I mean, could help you out there.
Statement sewer tax.
Yeah.
But just to
Okay.
clarify one point, if you don't use the sewage system, you don't pay, so I don't know about that.
Say again?
If you're not part of that system, you don't pay, so.
Right.
I have my own separate tax.
Oh, yeah, so, and I think that goes to just the sewer operation though, too. So whereas your general tax goes to everything. So maybe thanks for that clarification.
We didn't have a choice.
Yeah, no, that's where you live.
Can I ask the last question that I have?
Sure.
Okay, so the last question relates to projecting out, which I think might be relevant to people who might be thinking about deferring. So I wanted to ask about that. I read last week that a former mayor of Norwalk, I forget his name, and I can send you the article that I read, was in Hartford and sounded the alarm of a unique situation that's occurring. And basically, this is what he said. Let's say you have a town that the tax base is 2/3 residential and 1/3 corporate.
Okay.
So he said, because of the mandatory reassessments that are occurring over the next 5 years in every city and town in the state of Connecticut, because of that, and because the pandemic has caused an increase
In value,
in value.
in value.
Of residential homes and a decrease in value of businesses, that there are going to be, during this next reassessment cycle, so not, if it's 2/3, 1/3, there's going to be
A shift.
increase. Yeah, a
Shift.
In property taxes for residential real estate and a windfall savings for businesses. And what this person was saying is the increase is going to put a disproportionate burden on senior citizens. And the state should recognize this and they should stop it. They can do things currently to stop it. Now, I think that we just went through a reassessment.
Yes.
So we're not going to go through a reassessment.
Well, we got 4 more years, yeah. Well,
Interested in your thoughts on.
the only time a commercial, okay, so, well, the only time you see a really big shift is when you have a lot of a good percentage of commercial. That's a 3-to-1 shift is 25-75, right? So they're saying 75% is residential, 25% is a commercial. Our commercial is about 13%. So we don't have as much commercial, but we have steady commercial, right? The only time you would lower, because of the market, the only time you'd lower a commercial property when you do a reassessment is if the rents went down. So with a commercial property, we send them a form every year. We ask them to tell us, they have to tell us what the rents and the expenses are, and we monitor that every year, every single year. So we have at least 3 years of history before the next reassessment. I don't know, I don't see that town losing that rents. What town was it?
Was no
Norwalk's is a hub, like got a lot going on, and I don't know. The commercials, the only way a commercial would go down from one reassessment to another is if their rents are decreasing, and then the value is less because we capitalize the rent into value, right? So that might have been just, I can't speak to that.
Good news, what you just said is that the percentages in Ridgefield.
Are less.
So it's unlikely to be as alarming.
As much of a mate, you're right. You're right.
I realize I'm using alarming in his remarks, but this is alarming. And so what you're saying is it's really not so alarming in this town.
Absolutely. Because we're at about 12 to 13%. Yes, thank you.
So
Okay,
in that building where it's a corporate building.
yes,
And there are 4 huge buildings.
empty,
One of them is almost empty.
right.
I mean, it's just a
It depends where you are, and it also depends what your percentage of commercial versus residential is. You know,
You know, everyone's working from
Right.
home.
yeah, and and all those buildings are a lot of them are being repurposed to apartments and different things. So hopefully that, you know, if you're at 25% though, that's a lot. And in your plan of development, they decide, the planning departments, commissions determine how much commercial development they want in to create a harmonious tax bill for a residentials. And we're about 12 or 13%. So I think that's benefited us in this time, right? Whereas in Shelton, they're probably 25% like Norwalk, possibly. But everything is being repurposed, is what it looks like. Hopefully, it happens sooner than later. But there's a lot of repurposing going on. But they might be in that situation. I don't know. But good thoughts, you know. Yes, ma'am.
So the last assessment took place during COVID, correct?
22.
Where-
The average increase was about 12 to 13%.
So what happens if your next assessment is home prices fall, which is being predicted?
What will happen is what happened in 2012. We dropped the assessments $1 billion in 2012.
Does that mean the rate can go up?
You'd be at the same place. The assessments go down, the mill rate goes up, and then the corporate people pay more. But that happened to us in 2012. The grand list dropped almost $1 billion. And the mill rate went down. It went down a lot, but you know, a lot of the residents didn't see an increase, but corporations did. Yes, Joe.
This is interesting, so I'm asking stuff.
I'm here to answer, so go ahead.
I'm curious how many payers, or the amount non-payers.
In
So
town?
You charge me $10,000, I don't pay. Not equal how many businesses or businesses, total dollar amount, are not paying, and what the town does as a result of that.
I think the uncollectible is like, I don't know, 4 or 5%, I think. That would be, the tax collector can confirm that, but I think that's close. When someone doesn't pay, we make a lot of money because we charge a lot of interest. And when they finally pay, I think it's 18% 18% compounded. I mean, excuse me? Yes, and that's what we catch it through tax sales. So if someone goes several years without paying us, they owe us the principal plus 18% compounded. That's a lot of money. And then we have a tax sale. I was lucky enough to be at one about a year ago that the tax collector had. And, everybody comes in, they're checked, do they qualify to bid? They come in with a check and they have an auction. And they sold everything. I mean, and basically eventually we got our money. We have to wait 6 months. Used to be, had to wait a year give the people who are being foreclosed on a year to come up with the money. I think now it's 6 months, but that's a tax collector question. But the interest, I remember we had somebody that owed us close to $1 million in interest. And I'm not going to say the property, and when it finally sold, I mean, where are you going to get that kind of a return? I mean, it's not good for the moment, but the money does come in, and I don't think it's more than 5%. Do you know? I don't know. I think it's around 5%. Around 5%? But it's guaranteed at a high rate, a really high rate. Because by statute, they have to be at 18%. So. Sure.
The last question relates to abatements. I'm curious, in terms of, so people are thinking, well, my taxes have gone up, I'm going to abate.
You mean defer?
No, file an abatement. In other words, you're charging me $10,000 in tax that should only be fees.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you mean an appeal? It's not,
File for abatement, I guess, appeal.
Yeah.
taxes.
well,
So my guess is it's probably.
it's based on value.
That actually successful, but I'm curious.
Well, I mean, if I made a mistake, you don't have to appeal it. I fix it on the spot, right? If there's something obvious, right? But we might see 2 to 5 people a year that want to actually have a formal appeal. And maybe 2 out of the 5 might get a change. I mean, but you're never precluded from coming in to say, my square footage is wrong. The deck is mismeasured. You don't have the right, whatever. And if we're wrong, we fix it. And listen, I make a lot of mistakes. It's how we fix them is what matters. Anybody else or no? Yeah, go ahead.
I received tons of mailings from my representative.
Okay.
And Julie and Amy, they came across with one I didn't understand. Expanded state income tax exemption on pensions, annuities, and social security.
But sounds like those types of income would be paying less taxes. They're not property tax, it's income that you have. So I guess they're looking at maybe trying to reduce the amount of tax that you pay just from what you read. But I don't know much about it, but it sounds like they want to reduce something for you.
Listen.
Yeah, I mean, if they were gonna, anytime you pay less taxes, why, of course, unless you gotta pay it back, why not? Yeah, they would be the ones to talk to, but if that's what they're telling you, that makes sense. Yeah, it gives you more money to spend. Yes, ma'am.
Right now, your pension is taxed.
Right.
Are they saying they want to reduce it?
I don't know, but that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Exemptions that you should know about on pensions, annuities, and your.
Yeah,
So
that's what it's saying, yeah. I might qualify in a year or two. That makes sense. I like that.
I think you're supposed to send in what you think you're going to spend the year ahead to Irma in October. And if you don't, you're getting charged more. If you don't know that, it goes by and they charge you bingo.
Yeah, I know, I've been there, yeah. You never get it back. Uh, Yes,
Two questions, one, or two statements. To the lady that just spoke, we met with, our state senator Julie Kushner yesterday, and I had a private conversation with her, asking her about, a bill that she is sponsoring, which is to address the pension, social security issue for teachers and public employees, because teachers in the state of Connecticut do not pay into Medicare. They, or in Social Security, they will pay a Medicare amount on their monthly paycheck. So they do not technically draw Social Security if they spend their entire career in Connecticut. If you worked outside of the education sector, which I did for over 20 years before I became a teacher, I have my 40+ quarters. So I technically will be drawing Social Security. The moment I withdraw my Social Security, my pension is decreased. So a pension that I earned, so there's.
decreased because of what, they're taxing it?
Yes.
Okay.
No, Connecticut, Connecticut, when you do your teacher, when you do your income tax, your pension is only taxed at 50%. Okay? But the inequity of being penalized because you worked in another field or career before you became a teacher, they're finally trying to address at the state level. And so they're looking at the whole pension thing, they're looking at how the ratios are, they're looking at Social Security tax. So I do give Senator Kushner some, bravos, because she has a bill out there right now, and she's hoping to be able to move it forward. They're coming to the end of the.
Yeah, it's a short session, right?
So that was just to that. The other thing I have is, when you're assessing homes, can you tell us what we as homeowners have the right to and do not do when you come to our property?
What does that mean?
So I
Hide
was
the
always
stove in the
told not
basement.
to let you inside my house. You
I-
can walk around the outside.
I don't need to really, well, I shouldn't say this. I'm pretty comfortable. I could come close without getting into your house.
Well, but I remember being told.
Yeah.
they can
Well,
walk the perimeter of your house.
Some places will overestimate to get your attention. And then you'll say, can you come out and please go through the house? I wouldn't do that, but I know I'd get close to what the value was, only from experience. But it doesn't hurt you to have them in, because if they overestimate and you feel like you did okay and you don't know what the house is really worth, then you're paying too much.
Mhm.
I mean, the goal is to be a percentage of market value. I mean, it's strictly up to you. If someone doesn't want me in the house, I just say thanks and I leave. I mean, what else can we do? But then we do have to come up with a number. We try to be as close as we can, but I know places that would overestimate.
Mhm.
And then if you didn't do anything about it, then you would be mistreated in that respect. Yeah, exactly. Anybody else? No? Go ahead.
Had applied for the, first.
Credit, yep. When did you come in?
When did I? Well, I come in, June. This June will be 2 years.
Okay, so are you getting it? If you came in June, well, we would have called you to come in to file, because when someone comes in, I can check the files. Okay. All right, you want to do that? Okay, you can call me.
Yeah.
Okay. You want the number? Or you,
It's on the bottom of the,
oh yeah, the number's there. Good. So
this
just,
direct line is on the bottom.
yeah,
of the
that's
sheet.
all. Call me and we'll see what the figures.
In June of 22, bought the condo, and, we were over 65. I went in right away. Like,
You wouldn't have qualified right away, because you would have had to be there at least a year. Right.
So I thought I would have gotten the second.
I'm hoping that we,
And I did go in and I met with the ladies and the town hall, and they put my name in the book and they said, you're all set, when it's your time.
we would call you.
And it starts in
And then I
July.
went in again. I have
Well-
not gotten that.
Well, we might, it's, the only thing I could say, in defense to us is that we might have called and we left a message and we didn't hear from you. So but I don't know. So you're gonna call me and we'll see. Well, and the reason why we do this is if you come in and it's not the time to file, we take your name and number and you sign a document that says, it's not the time to file, but I will be called within a certain time frame. We only do that because I've had situations where people would come in, let's say, after the filing period, April 5th, and then July, the bill comes out and they say, oh, we came in to file. So now we make sure that we document when the person comes in and we call you back to come in, but we might have missed that. I'll look and see. Yeah, definitely, because there should be a file. So, but if you're gonna call me, that's fine, but if not, I need your name and number. Okay, I'm sorry, okay. Okay. Yep, and then you're, okay, can you give me your phone number? Or do you want to just, yeah, yep,
34.
okay, so I'll look and see.
I'm glad you came in today. This
All
is
right,
good.
Angela, I'll definitely call you.
Seriously. But I understand that maybe it was the wrong filing for the first year, but I would have thought that I would have gotten it. As I said, this June 3rd will be 2 years that would be.
Well, it depends when you came in, but if you did come in and it wasn't the time to file, we would have called you this January to say, come in to file to get it in June. But either way, we'll figure it out.
You'll
Okay.
get a call soon.
Yeah.
Right?
I called, I have been there. No, maybe I'm.
We might have filled out an application and you're not receiving it yet, because this is like a kind of period where, it's no, this, yes, that's what I'm gonna, we haven't sent any applications out to people where if you're a first time filer, you didn't get anything yet to say it's been granted, because we were waiting until the end of the filing period and now we process them. So you might be in the works.
Excuse me, you may get a call later today. Who knows? I don't know your schedule, but I'm glad you're here. It'll be resolved. Wonderful. Andrea, did you have another question?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm just asking Joe a question.
Does anybody else have a question that Al could answer?
Oh, no, he asked my question.
Oh, good. Okay. Good. Just want to make sure. So if anybody else has a question, now is the time. Happy to
Yeah, sure.
give it to Al.
And
And
we discussed about filing with the taxes, what is it? We just-
For the credit of $1,048, January 1st to April 1st. Where it reduces your bill by $1,048 if you're 65 and you live in your home 183 days out of the year.
you have to wait till July for it to
Yes,
start.
How would I know if I've been?
I can, okay, I don't want to ask you,
Call?
Do you-
I'll
do you-
have the sheet
yeah,
with
do you
this
qualify? I didn't want to say how old you are, but do you qualify?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to call me, I'll give you, my number's right at the bottom. Yeah, they're for you, sure. Yeah,
We have plenty, yeah.
so they're right here. Just call and ask for,
And I
Just-
can't walk, but if you want to come up quickly, I'll give you.
yeah, and then just,
Here you go. Yeah, I can't, yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay,
no problem, that's fine, just call me, I'll tell you.
okay. All right.
All right.
Andrea, question?
No, I want one of the sheets.
Oh, okay, so
We got plenty of them.
I'm going to interject. Yeah, no, I have plenty of, I'm going to interject. Do you have a question, Rose?
Offering anybody.
Oh, okay. So now I believe we're going to, and Al, as always, thank you.
You will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very, very.
Thank you. Anytime.
You can have one of the snacks too.
Oh, thank you.
Water.
Okay.